The Fund for Public Schools was created to be the transparent, accountable entry point for private donations to support New York City's public schools. New York City is the largest school district in the nation, more than 1,700 schools and 1.1 million students. Our job is to give donors confidence that their contributions, whether they give $10 or $10,000, are invested where they can have the greatest impact on the city's schools. But we are more than a good shepherd of private dollars donated to the New York City Department of Education. We're a strategic partner to the department and a tool for greater civic engagement in the city's schools. Rather than raising funds for isolated one-off projects, we leverage private donations to catalyze improvements and innovation across the school system. This support pushes the department's efforts beyond what would be possible with public funds, creating a multiplier effect on the public investment we are already making. The core objective of the fund is to secure private sector resources that can be effectively leveraged to dramatically improve the educational experience of New York City's public school students. We work with foundations to provide funding for the department's critical system-wide reform initiatives. We also help businesses create partnerships to support our city's schools, and we encourage greater involvement by all New Yorkers in the education of our children. We believe everyone has something to contribute, whether it's time, talent, or treasure, and we seek to make it easy and rewarding for individuals and the business and philanthropic communities to give back. The fund works hand in hand with the New York City Department of Education, which means we're totally focused on fundraising for the mayor's and the chancellor's most important initiatives. Working so closely with top Department of Education officials gives us the ability to thoroughly vet programs before we start raising funds for them. Our donors have peace of mind that their funding is going to the highest priorities of the city, and that it'll be used strategically and effectively. It also means that we're able to closely monitor grants and give our donors real-time feedback on programmatic successes and challenges. The fund is so effective thanks to a couple of factors unique to our organization. First, our staff is highly skilled at matching the priorities of the New York City Department of Education with donor interests. We have the ability to translate and decode complex education policies and make them understandable and accessible for our donors. Second, our exhaustive vetting process for the initiatives we support and rigorous grant management maintains accountability to our donors every step of the way. We provide close communication throughout the process. We monitor the initial goals that are outlined in our grant proposals, as well as the specific performance benchmarks. And then we create a detailed report of the progress and impact of each privately funded initiative. Third, we're nimble and flexible, so we're able to adjust as needed to fundraise for emerging needs. This means that the mayor and the chancellor can look to us quickly to support their most pressing needs in the dynamic and fast-paced landscape of city policy making. The fund seeks to invest in innovative programs that target historically challenging areas of the school system. We also leverage public and private partnerships for the greatest return on our investment. A successful initiative is one that's incubated with private funding and, if proven effective, can be scaled across the system or integrated into the Department of Education's core operations. The scope of the initiatives that we support is broad, from training school leaders to revitalizing public school libraries to piloting innovative school models. We work with the department to carefully develop and monitor key metrics aligned to the specific goals for each initiative. Our approach is results-driven. We embed clear milestones and success metrics into our proposals, and we're committed to honest, regular communication with our donors about the programs they support. From a fundraising perspective, our goals vary based on the amount of private support required to develop, launch, and evaluate the initiatives that the Chancellor has charged us with supporting. The Fund for Public Schools raises millions of dollars every year to support a vast school system. New York City has over 1,700 schools and serves 1.1 million students. So it's easy for people to have the misconception that the system is too big or the sums needed are too great for an individual, small business, or a family foundation to make a difference. But that just isn't the case. there is something for everyone to do. An individual can mentor a young person. A company can revitalize a school library with new books and computers that can encourage students to become lifelong learners. A foundation can help open a new school in a high-need neighborhood. Gifts of any size have a direct impact on our students' success. Another common misconception about the fund is that we raise private funding to supplement or replace public operational dollars, but that's not the case. Instead, we introduce new funding into the system that seeds research and development efforts. This allows the Department of Education to explore innovative pilot programs and to thoroughly evaluate and tweak them before public dollars are spent. Since 2003, the fund has raised more than $300 million to support the priority initiatives of the New York City Department of Education. We've really put public education on the map as one of the premier charitable causes for New Yorkers. We've encouraged a broad cross-section of them to get involved in supporting our schools. Our work has played a key role in developing some of the foundational structures that the city schools needed to be able to function more effectively. We've also pioneered innovative teaching and learning initiatives across all our classrooms. For example, to expand the educational options for the city's top-performing students, we've supported the creation of several new academically selective schools. To ensure that our students can compete on the world stage, we've supported training so that educators are prepared to effectively implement the new Common Core state standards in all of our classrooms. The fund is shaking up existing assumptions about teaching and learning by supporting schools that are piloting alternatives to the traditional one-size-fits-all educational model. These schools leverage an array of strategies that personalize instruction by identifying and catering to the needs, strengths, and motivations of each child. For example, they may have self-paced online coursework, as well as individualized schedules tailored to each student's daily progress. We've also supported student literacy by revitalizing public school libraries across the 5 boroughs, with new books and up-to-date technology so that our students will be lifelong readers and learners. In 2003, the Fund for Public Schools was relaunched under the leadership of the Mayor and the Chancellor to function as the primary organization for donations and public-private partnerships to support the city's public schools and the New York City Department of Education. Rallying support for this work required overcoming the perception that donating to a school system as large and complex as New York City's was like giving to a black box. Donors worried that it wasn't possible to track the use and impact of donations. They needed to have confidence that we would be the transparent and accountable entry point for contributions to our schools. So to build credibility and visibility for the organization, we assembled a high-profile board of directors consisting of leaders across the business and philanthropic sectors. We engaged as many New Yorkers as possible, and we formed meaningful collaborative relationships with the business community, government agencies, and community-based organizations already actively working in our schools. Together, these efforts demonstrated the integrity of our focus, and they catalyzed significant support from the philanthropic community. With additional funds, we would expand our current programs. Already fundraising for initiatives that support teachers and give students new and exciting ways to learn. We're also funding pilot programs that personalize instruction for each student in the classroom. We provide training for teachers to help them get up to speed on the new Common Core standards, and also we're seeking ways to effectively measure their performance. So we've got a lot on our plate, and we'll effectively use all the additional resources we can get our hands on. There's truly no silver bullet for the issues we're facing in public education today. The Fund for Public Schools needs everyone's involvement, individuals, corporations, and foundations, to make the kind of changes necessary to ensure a bright future for our students, our city, and our nation.